Hello, I'm Aubrey Katz. I'm a senior at Campbell High School, and I'm going to be giving my ISDS presentation today. So, the first thing I want to talk about is my classes at Campbell. I am in the International Baccalaureate program, which means that all of my classes are really focused on worldly values. So for my literature class, we did a lot of work on works in translation. Like we read Jorge Luis Borges' Ficciones, which was really fascinating because in my Spanish class, we read it in Spanish. And then obviously in my literature class, we read it in English. And it's just really, it was very interesting to see how the meaning changed across languages. Very cool. And we have done other stuff like that too. Like we read Madame Bovary. And yeah, it's a really cool class. And then for my IB Spanish language, we of course are focused on learning the Spanish language, but during my time in that class, I've learned just so much about Spanish culture, but not just Spanish culture, Hispanic culture. So I've learned about different dialects and traditions from all around the world, especially in Latin America, which I found really interesting because I feel we tend to have more of a European perspective when viewing historical events, but we learned about history and current events and the language for all Latin countries, which I thought was really fascinating. And then, of course, we also have my history of the Americas class from last year that became my 20th century history class this year. And again, in this class, we don't just focus on the American perspective or a European or Western perspective. We really try to take into account all sides of the kind of perspective, which I think is really, really cool. And I have learned a lot, I think. Like, for example, we've been talking about World War II, but we haven't just been talking about, like how the US got involved with the bombing of Pearl Harbor, but we've learned about Stalin and Mussolini and their policies and how it affected their countries. So, yeah. And for my activities, I wanted to focus on my trips I took this summer because I had the opportunity to go to Spain and Portugal. And then a little bit later with my family, I went to Amsterdam and London. So on these pictures on the left, starting with, that's me and my friend Tori standing in Sevilla with our abanicos because it was really hot, but it was super cool. And we toured, I don't remember which church that day, but we did go inside this church that was right behind us. And then if you go up, that's again me and some of my friends. But that was in another part of Spain. That was near Barcelona, not quite in Barcelona though, but we were touring the Alhambra, which was a Muslim mosque. Very fascinating. And then if we go right again, that is of course in Barcelona, and that is La Sagrada Familia, which is super cool piece of architecture by Gaudi. And I went inside of it. It's very cool. And I just learned a whole lot about Spanish architecture and just the history of that building. And I learned a lot on that trip. And then if we go down, me in the blue dress, that was when I was at Westminster Abbey with my family. I got to see all the graves of some really famous people, which I thought was cool because I'm kind of a history buff. And I got to see, I saw Isaac Newton, I saw Mary Queen of Scots. I saw pretty much every king and queen you can imagine, but it was quite interesting. And we even talked to some of the locals, which was really cool. And then if you go right, that is a picture from the streets of Amsterdam. And I visited the Anne Frank house there, and as well as the Van Gogh Museum, which I thought was really fascinating. And then to the right of that, that was in the British Museum, and that is me and a philosopher. I don't remember which one, but I was standing next to him because I am in philosophy. So yeah, and then finally, for my service, I wanted to focus on my Spanish tutoring because I do a lot of that. I didn't really have any pictures from it, but the one on the left is from my Spanish Honor Society because we do it through them. And on the right, that's all the dates that I had signed up for my Spanish tutoring. But basically, I come in early in the morning and I help underclassmen with Spanish, any of the help that they need, and talk to them about culture, current events, any and everything that they want. But it's really cool to see people kind of develop a love for Spanish, and like I love it. And I have learned to love it through this program and kind of love the global values that it offers. So yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching my presentation and have a good day.